Hey guys and dolls, welcome to Reality Recap, the News 24 live podcast that takes a shady look at what went down on your favorite reality shows. My name is Selisho, News 24 live deputy editor, an avid reality TV viewer and your viewing companion throughout the year. But enough about me, let's get into why we're here today. And today we're recapping the first and second episodes of the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip essay on Showmax. And I just wanted to start by saying I planted the seed for this to happen. Yes, I did. At the screening for the Real Housewives of Johannesburg last year during a Q&A session, I took the mic and I asked Sonia Mbele, producer of Real Housewives of Johannesburg, and what was the initial Real Housewives that got the show started. I asked her if she'd be keen to produce a season of the franchise if the opportunity became available in South Africa, and obviously she said she did, but you can read all about it on News 24. In that article, you'll also find comments from housewives like Bev and Londie, who I asked if they'd be down to do a show like this, and they're on the season, so effectively I also helped them cast. I'm joking. Don't send the Goat Productions people after me, but I definitely got the ball rolling on this. But enough of tooting my own horn, let's get into the first and second episodes, which go live on Mondays. And this past week, we were introduced to the cast, among them, favorites like Nonku Williams, Litabo Lijoy Matato, Melanie Viljoen, Lakonto. Those are some of the people that are on the cast of this from different Real Housewives franchises across South Africa. But this opens the door for this to go to places like Kenya, Nigeria, and have those housewives on future seasons. And with the quality that we have for this season, we are off to a great start. This won't just be living on Showmax. It will be on Bravo, Peacock, and we can't be putting our on a budget foot forward when we show the world our reality stars. Considering the legal drama that Mel and Piet Viljoen are embroiled in, read all about it on News 24, it was a bit cringeworthy to see that little pre-trip exchange between the couples. But then again, are you really a housewife if you don't have a little legal drama plaguing you? And we got to see this season's biggest newsmaker after Mel and Piet's little exchange, Lakonko, who is the reason I won the most read article of the year in a previous job. She used her segment to bring a polarizing friend to the show back in the form of Mabusi, who joined her for lunch as the pair chopped it up about the trip. At this segment in the show, we're seeing people in their little real lives. Some of them have actually been accused of not showing their real lives. Looking at you, Londie, who people have said was in a well-known Airbnb for her scene, instead of filming in her actual own house to introduce herself to the show. So that's what we see when the show opens. Lassie famously used the term Google me when she joined the show, and she recently made sure there'd be fresh Google results for any Ultimate Girls Trip viewers who decided to look into her. After shortly before the show started, she filled her Instagram stories with her never before told romance and engagement story to former South African president turned face of the newly established MK party, Jacob Zuma. Many asked me why she did it, and my answer is simple. She did it for publicity. The lady wanted all eyes to be on her once the show started, and she achieved her goal. At some point in episode 1, Mel tries to call her Mrs. Zuma, and Lassie immediately shuts that down, much to Mel's confusion. And fast forward to their arrival in Jamaica, I love the producers chose to film Jamaica that way, true to life color, showing how blue the water is, how green the rolling hills are. It really makes it look like an idyllic travel destination, which is what you want for a show like Real Housewives. Not going to go into the economic realities that Jamaica is facing. You can watch the news for that. But for Real Housewives, we're trying to keep it, luxury, travel, dreamy, and the producers really got that right. This season's property manager at the house that the ladies are staying at is a man named Elton Bent, and what most South African viewers are not aware of is that the property manager, or butler in some cases, is a significant part of the cast. So they have to be a little bit shady, they have to not be scared of the housewives, they have to know when and how to put them in their place. So just as we meet Elton, with an A by the way, not an E, we immediately get a fight between Bev and Crystal as they're on the way to the house. And what I'd like to say is that this was all for show, but having met Crystal, I can tell you it's not like that. Lady is really like that. And you have to exercise just a little bit of patience when speaking to Crystal, because sometimes she won't hear what you're saying in the way that you intended it. Later on in the episode, we get a little moment where Mel doesn't recognize LaJoy and tries to shade her by saying she has changed her face a lot since they last met. But viewing that interaction from the perspective of someone who's previously been called the wrong name by media industry acquaintances, I know what was going on there. We also get to watch the standard room assignment drama, but that was what was most surprising to me during that segment is how much of a Nonku stan Bev is. She couldn't believe she was in the same room as Nonku, and the way you guys love her, Bev acted like one of y'all, which cements Nonku's position in the Real Housewives franchise, not just in Africa, but if she plays her cards right across the world. So in that episode, I also loved that Lassie privately called Mel to order, but that moment was quickly stolen by Nonku, who pressed on about the petal matter after she came to the table. So we got Mel and Lassie at the table first for the group dinner, and then Nonku joined them and, started bringing up the petal matter, which happened in the second season of their show, The Real Housewives of Durban, that they're both on. But what I love about Lassie, proper Zulu girl, gave as good as she got by reminding Nonku of her brief dalliance with Rough Diamond. So that little exchange became a draw because both ladies have a little questionable situation in their romantic pasts. At this point, several people were disappointed to not see Londie in the first 2 episodes, but what I do understand is that the producers can't give it all to you right at the beginning. As an avid Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip viewer, I can confirm that they do this all the time. Even on the international franchise, you'll have housewives that have been kind of the most popular big newsmakers of their season, so it takes a little while for them to introduce them to the show. They've got to keep you watching. So sometimes they don't even come in the first, second, or even third episode, that you stroll in during episode 4 when, a lot has already happened, and then they kind of rehash the first 3 episodes drama by catching her up because she wasn't there. So we might see that with Londie when she kind of arrives. But speaking of the second episode, we open by getting an inside look at what went down in the physical altercation between Cristal, Brunette Siopela, and Gugu Kati from the never-before-seen episode of Real Housewives of Johannesburg that was filmed before everybody was canned, and they kind of had to do a reboot. So as LaJoy tells it, Cristal feels like a victim in that moment because she had an issue with most of the other women on the cast, including a name that she mentioned that kind of made my ears rise a little bit. She mentioned Zari. So I was wondering if this could be young, famous, and African Zari, the boss lady, and if she was meant to be on Real Housewives of Johannesburg before the season got canned. And you kind of get grateful that that happened because it wouldn't have opened the door for her to be on Young, Famous, and African, which I feel she's better suited for. But anyway, the ladies then started making fun of Cristal's eye by jokingly asking which one of them she was looking at. And instead of participating in her own bullying, she got up and left the table. And I don't blame her for that. People found that funny, but sometimes we got to learn to not laugh, guys. And this is not intentional, but in the blink of an eye, no pun intended, the conversation shifts focus to Mel and her newfound American accent. And I'm glad they addressed this because in my head, I had my head tilted during some of her scenes because I'm that is not how Mel sounds. So I'm glad they addressed it. She tried to brush it off, but I guess it must be the Jamaican air why she felt she needed to be American Mel. Hey, we wonder what Tammy Taylor has to say about that. But anyway, speaking of Mel, Nonku opened the floor for Mel to explain the Tammy Taylor drama, but having gotten a front row seat to how Mel and Beard Falloon answer that question, I knew Nonku was in for some serious shy-shiring on Mel's part, but thank goodness Nonku didn't buy it. Letabu, Nonku, and Liz kept the questions coming, but Mel always has an answer for everything, as she did when News 24's Gitu Metsimako reached out to Mel and Beat for comment when the then American Tammy Taylor owner and the person who carries the name came forward with her video explaining how she knew the couple and how she's been in a dispute with them. You can catch up on that drama on News 24's Lifestyle Entertainment section, as I said, but in the next scene after that, Cristal continues to drag out the matter with Bev, and I honestly zoned out at that part because I was bored by it. That fight is over, hang it up, girl. And then this was after we saw her have a light-hearted moment with Alton, who commented on, for now we'll call it her fondness of wine at any time of the day. He's morning, noon, night, that lady is always with her wine. And, it seemed like a little lighthearted comment, but I caught that shade, Alton. I also enjoyed seeing Mel, Letabo, Liz, and Nonku enjoy something that most tourists do in Jamaica, which was that leisurely raft ride that they take on the calm waters. Because while we have rushing waters on some of our rivers here, in some areas of Jamaica, from what I've seen, haven't been there yet, they have very still, calm waters in their rivers, which makes for a great raft ride where we saw the ladies speaking. They paired Letabo with Mel and Liz with Nonku. So Letabo and Mel spoke about love and relationships, and Mel asked Letabo when she's going to settle down, and she basically opened up about like her struggles with love, and then she flipped the tables on Mel and asked her about her choice to not have children with Beard. And you can tell that like Mel's getting annoyed with it at this point because people keep pressing on. You know, Nonku brought it up in the first episode, and Mel just said, I'm not one of those people who wants to have kids, and that should be enough of an answer. We don't have to have like a whole debrief about it. But next we see Nonko and Liz speaking, and I liked their conversation. It was lighthearted, it was chilled. Liz is not here for the drama this season. Liz will drop a spice little comment and just be like in her own world, enjoying the holiday that she's on. And she's actually been very funny. But anyway, this episode ended with another pre-dinner gathering where Crystal was clearly on one and in a mood for more drama. But Nonko decided to whip out her imaginary can of worms and let loose on the worms by asking Mel about her husband, who was the first topic of conversation. And in a weird turn of events, Nonko mentioned that Mel's husband was following Bev, and everyone was like, girl, Nonko, how you know that? And Nonko's like, no, I went through all of your followers. And like they brushed past that too quickly for me because there's like 6 or 7 cast members. Are you telling me Nonko went through all of their followers? And what was she looking for? Like, these people are addicted to drama, but I feel like they should have stood on that a little bit. But then throughout their conversation, everyone kept making like reference back to IG posts. They're like, I saw in May you posted this and you said this in your caption. And I'm like, how y'all remember captions, guys? I'm sorry, I do not have time for all of that. But these ladies, for businesswomen and reality stars, they have way too much time on their hands. It was entertaining to watch, but you don't put on reality TV if you don't want us to talk about it, guys. And then they closed with like the carte blanche expose on Mel and her husband and what they're doing with like the Tammy Taylor thing, which they spoke about in the bus on the way to the river rafting, where Mel was shy-shying Nonku, and then she continued to shy-shy the rest of the people. And this is where I'm going to need like Abosokulu and partners, you know, legal eagles to join the chat, because Mel was like trying to confuse us. She said, and I need to refer to my notes here, she was like, regional magistrates made rulings to high courts about the constitutionality of accusations made against her and her husband. Like, I don't know if all those things end up in the same realm, but I'm going to need someone to clear up. And then he's been named her husband in a handful of deals that don't seem all the way legit because, you know, he seemingly plays fast and loose with the law and talks people into circles. And he's clearly taught his wife to do that because she did that at the pre-dinner chat. And the ladies reminded her that he was disbarred, and she tried to pretend like that wasn't a thing. And I was like, girl, Mel, And then she said he suffered because of being wrongly accused and the courts treated him unconstitutionally. And I need to go and read the court papers because something is not adding up there. But anyway, we end with Liz, who is my fighter for the season's funniest housewife, along with Lassie and Nonku. Every time she opens her mouth, I feel so bad for laughing. And this time, when she implied that Crystal should refer to herself as Barbie's mother and not Barbie, I felt bad. I laughed, cried, laughed again, cried some more, and I really felt like a bad person because she was technically age-shaming Crystal for keeping it a buck, but it was funny. I'm not going to lie, it was funny. But I feel kind of bad for Crystal because as much as she is a little bit of a dramatic person who holds on to things she shouldn't be holding on to, she is a little bit of a sensitive soul, and they're going like way too hard on my girl Crystal. But anyway, this season seems to be geared up for Crystal, who revealed that her 28-year-old husband, who was 26 when they married, was with her for 2 years and frequently bleeped her twice a day, every day, for 2 years. I'm not going to use the language she used. It went into an awful tangent. And then in capitalizing on her platform, she dropped a single on Instagram speaking about lost love and dropped a picture of her husband who looks quite hot. So if you want to see that, go onto News 24. But that's about it for our wrap of the first 2 episodes of Ultimate Girls Trip, which is currently showing on Showmax. I'm enjoying it. Quality content, little laughable moments, and the ladies' incorporation of social media into the show. Absolutely love it. Looking forward to the rest of the season and looking forward to watching it with you guys. This has been Selisho for the RealiTea podcast for News 24 Live. See you next week.